Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, the Paranormal Portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Welcome, gatekeepers. How you doing? Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Tonight, I'll tell you what, all day long, I have been tramping through
haunted graveyards to come up with fun and exciting ghost stories for you guys. And I'll tell you what, there's so many stories out there. There's so many. Think about it. How many graveyards do you think there are actually just in the United States? Can you even wrap your mind around that number? So, and if you think about it, how many do you think are haunted? Are they all haunted? Are they haunted? Are you one of the people that think that, of course, there's ghosts there? Or are you more on the side of, why would they hang around there? That's more for like, you know, lower vibrational type things. Where do you sit on the graveyard fence? What side of the graveyard fence do you sit on? Or is it just like any other place? It just depends. And are other graveyards maybe haunted more than others because of a curse or because of where they are or what's happened there? So it's interesting to think about. Of course, a lot of them have, might have an interesting background in history or some kind of small town story attached to it that, maybe a murder mystery or an unrequited love and, what do we have to call it now? A murder unlifing. I can't say the S word, but I can say the M word. That's so weird. I can say murder. Can I say murder? I guess I can. All right. So anyway, it's very strange, but since it's Monday Madness, we have Mr. Steve Stockton with us tonight. If he's ready, he can give me the old heave ho, the double thumbs up, I'm all tangled. All right, I know that's loud. I'm sorry. All right, let's get him in here. Listen, author, raconteuse, wonderful collector of tales. I think that's important too, because when you spend your whole life collecting stories, you'll never be at a loss for one at a dinner party, let me tell you. So let's get him in here. Mr. Steve Stockton, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, yeah, good to see you, Cisco, and everybody. Just
Hello,
want to
sweetie.
correct you. One little correction there. You misgendered me. I'm a raconteur. You are a raconteuse. It's like a masseur
Raconteur,
or a
a
masseuse.
tour? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Well, I didn't mean to
Raconteur.
do that. I hear
Oh,
that's
yeah, that's a thing nowadays.
that's unlawful in like what 45 states or some stuff. So there you
You,
go.
you,
Rick,
my friend, are a raconteuse.
I am a same to you, buddy. Well, I guess can't do that, can I? All
Oh,
right.
sure.
How you doing tonight? How's the
I'm
missus?
doing good. 7
Baby's on the
days
way. Little
exactly
man's
until
on.
baby day, and
Oh my
that's if
gosh.
he goes to full term. That'll be 40 weeks. Will be 7 weeks from today. So I think he's
Seven.
a couple of weeks early.
That's less than 2 months. Do that math.
Yeah,
You know what, Steve? You can guess all you want. They're going to come when they get here.
yeah.
You know.
He'll come when he's ready. So
And no matter how ready you are, you ain't ready. You know what I mean?
we've already
But you're
got our
going to be.
hospital bags packed and everything. We could leave at a moment's notice.
Do you remember the I Love Lucy? That episode was such a big deal. I don't know if you can remember back that far.
I've
I
watched
re-
the reruns, but I no, that was way before my time.
well, I'm sure the ones I remember were reruns as well, but not the original the night of, But I do remember people talking about it back then because that was always a big deal with them because they had, I think, didn't they have twin beds in the same room?
Yeah,
I think the first king size bed where they were both in the same bed was Brady Bunch.
yeah, that is true.
I think you back me on that. Okay, I
Yeah,
wasn't sure, but the Lucy and Desi was probably one of the first times it ever really got worked into a script and a show. You know, so they, I remember that one, and I remember a movie. I think they did something about having an airstream. Uh,
the long trailer, the
oh
something
man,
something trailer. That's a good movie. I've got a copy of
that was
that.
funny. That was
If
funny.
you'd like one that fell off a truck, let me know.
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to see it. I'm trying to figure out how I can,
I
I'm
think it's
still working on my Rumble channel. I figured it out. I had a lot of people are saying if you open the Rumble channel when Rumble first opened, then you have a channel, but you don't have a channel for like live streaming. You have to start another channel.
yeah. And then they do some
About
stuff
all your
over there like if you have it in one place, you can't have it in the other, or vice. I don't know. It's got to be different. You can't play the same
trying to
video.
sort it. I got it down to 2.
something like that. I don't know. I haven't been over there yet, so
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. I'm
I've
still
got my
trying to
hands
figure it out.
full with YouTube.
I know. And and people don't realize how much time, and that's not a
That's a
complaint. That's
lifetime,
just
and I'm
a thing
juggling
where you can't
several
do.
channels. You have to,
Yeah,
gotta,
so
you gotta pick
much.
your battles, so to speak. But try
So
to keep
much. It's like I want to
the
have the
long,
book done. I
long
want to get
trailer
this done.
is the full name of that movie, 1953 comedy.
1953. Wow, that's a good one. But I remember the episode where
Hey, Sarah
I think they
Claire.
were going to the hospital. There's always a mix up in the comedy skit and a thing. Hey, Sarah, how you doing? And a comedy skit that goes with it. But I seem to remember that one being pretty special. I don't know why I think back to that, but that was probably the most when I was a kid. You didn't see Donna Reed going around getting ready to to give birth. She'd come home from the hospital, hair done, make casserole, and
Same with June Cleaver. Can you imagine her giving birth? She would have had her pearls on and her bouffant all done up there. Whatever.
yeah.
Hey, Catherine, how you
Yeah.
doing?
Yep. I mean, there was a couple back in the day, but I think that was pretty much it. Of course, with the I Love Lucy too. Ricky and Fred probably were wearing a path in the hallways and stuff, but men couldn't go anywhere near it. They kept you down. The old movies, they kept you downstairs and they just paced back and forth and drank and had a good old time.
That ain't happening. We have a birthing suite. They've already gave us a tour and everything. I will be in the room. I can cut the cord. They asked me, you can cut the cord if you want to. I'm like, of course I want to.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great? So different. Everything is so different. I mean, it's funny thinking, because I've been thinking about this today, because I've been thinking a lot about you and all the early movies and stuff and how they handled it. And it was always, they sent somebody off to get a pot of boiling water and towels. That's it. That's all you had to do.
Gone with the Wind.
Yep.
I don't know nothing about birthing no babies.
No babies. I know. I just dropped something on the floor. Take it away, Steve. I gotta pick stuff up off the floor.
One of the cemeteries we're going to mention tonight, there's a connection with Gone with the Wind.
Is it really? How about that? We didn't. How did we do that?
Just lucky, I reckon.
All right. Well, it sounds good. Well, Steve and I put together. I've been, like I said, I've been tramping around old graveyards all day, looking for stuff. So if you want to start with that, and then Steve's got something special for y'all. We've got one of my favorite stories. If you want to give a little preview featurette description of what that's about. The story that we're playing of yours after this.
It's a true story about when I was in high school. And
I love this story.
Some encounters that a friend of mine and my best friend in high school and somewhat in college.
Thank you, baby.
Our nights spent in a haunted cemetery and some of the weird stuff that we witnessed. There's
hey, everybody. Thank you so much for popping in. And if you could go back out, hit that thumbs up so YouTube knows that there's people watching. And if you can share it out, share it out. I understand if you can't. Who doesn't like haunted graveyards? I mean, you might not want to sleep in one, but who wouldn't want to hear some stories about it? So share it out if you can. And thank you so much for being here. And please comment on the videos afterwards. That helps too. So I don't do a lot of housekeeping here, but everything helps. And we've got the TeePublic. We've got, we've got the Sage Against the Machine t-shirts. We've got all kinds of things, crispy and some other fun ones too. So help any way you can. And if all you can do is give it a thumbs up, I certainly appreciate it. And God bless you, just like the Hey Penny, right? So thank you. Thank you. So there's that. Get over there and share that Rumble. That's the one I'm trying to hold on to. I'm trying to keep that Rumble channel because everybody's over there. But I'm working on it, guys. I'm telling you, there's not enough time in the day. Salted roasted cashews and ginger ale on ice. Hey, that sounds nice. Doesn't that sound like a song? I'm eating salted roasted cashews and ginger ale on ice. That's got to be something, Steve. It's got a nice cadence to it.
Lyrics in there. Need to let Lee.
It's got a nice cadence. Well, hello. Good to see you, Sarah. Ted. How's Lord Connor doing? Is everything
here? Ron Meg.
Yep.
I said hi.
Froze.
And hello to all lurkers.
Some old scoundrel named Tales Untold. I don't know who that could possibly be.
Yeah.
Lulu.
Missing Person Mysteries is in
Henry.
there too.
Henry, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? All
Claire
right,
Wolf,
so
Paranormal Lindsay, how you doing?
there's Lindsay. Hi,
Fashionably
honey.
late, as she says.
That's fine. You're right on time, sugar. Right on time. Ron, did I say hi to you? I think I said hi to everybody. If I missed you, it's not on purpose. All right. So tonight, like I said, graveyards and what Steve told you about is one of my favorite stories that he tells. I think it's great. And it's funny, when he first told me that story, I think we were probably on the phone the first time, that 7-8 hour phone call.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was great because it's just young guys going out having a good time, and then it turned into something even more deep, a deeper experience. And the funny thing is like 7-8 years later, I'm hearing stories that match up with it. Shadow LeGros has a similar. Have you ever heard her story?
Yeah.
Similar. So I wonder if you guys have too. So stick around for the end of that one, because it's great to have Steve do it the way he did it on 13 Past Midnight, right, Steve?
Yep. It's still up over there if anybody wants to go back and watch it over there.
Very good. All right.
Get here tonight.
All right. This one is, what do I have here? Lord knows, I've been working on this one all day, so ain't no telling what's in here. There's a little bit of reading, there's a little bit of watching, there's a little bit of listening. So what I did was I went through, got some facts on certain cemeteries or graveyards. Do you think there's a difference between a cemetery and a graveyard, Steve? What's the difference? It's like a motel and a hotel.
I don't know. I interviewed a girl the other night on my radio show that's majoring in mortuary science and studying to be a mortician and embalmer. I'll message her and see if she knows what's the difference between a cemetery and a graveyard. I think it's the same thing. Although some cemeteries, memorial gardens, they don't have the tombstones. They have just a flat marker in the ground. That may
that's a whole different horse of a different color, isn't it?
Gravestones.
I saw one today. It was called the Lollipop Cemetery because it didn't have any headstones, didn't have any.
Oh, it's buried there.
Yeah, your mileage may vary. Anyway, they weren't headstones. They were like markers, but they all looked like lollipops on a long stick with just a marker on the top. They were metal, but they had just the name and the date and that little bit there. It was strange. It was a different kind. I can't remember whether it was Quaker or something else. It had a stipulation to it. But there's got to be a difference. Do you really?
According to Google, let's see. Cemeteries are generally in neighborhoods, while graveyards are often in or beside a church. I don't know about one being in the church. I think it means a churchyard, but that's according to Google.
Wow.
Did not know that.
Well, see, you never know what you're going to learn here. How about that? Did you guys know that? I know there's a delay here. If you knew that now what's the difference between that and a memorial garden? I guess there's more flowers.
Costs more, probably.
Yeah, it sounds like the price is going up, because I do have a little bit in here about the one in Hollywood. What's the name of that one? Hollywood Forever Hollywood, or
Forest Lawn, Hollywood Forever. There's
something like that.
I've been to all those out there. There's been to who is it? Valentino's. He's in a mausoleum.
Yeah.
Which just
it's kind of creepy.
Put you in a box and put you in the wall and don't bury you in the ground. Lucille Ball.
I just don't even know, man.
I'll take that back. I think she's buried in New York, upstate New York. I don't remember.
Fro says he didn't know. I didn't either. It's like that thing, motel and hotel. What's the difference between those two? I remember when I was little, one of them was supposed to be stay longer in one than the other.
Motel, it's supposed to be like a motor court you could drive your car to. Hotel, it can be in town, with that's my understanding.
Really? Wow. See, don't you think there should be some kind of a instructional booklet,
guidebook,
guidebook or something? Little maps in it and stuff. You get it. It's like, here you go. Maybe before you get to kindergarten, maybe it fills up as you. That would be neat if you get a different chapter every year. It's like you should know this now.
Yeah, according to Google. Motels are a type of hotel, but they generally differ in size, location, amenities, and guest experience. Motels are often found along roads and highways, while hotels are usually located in cities or towns or near attractions, airports, and other sites of interest.
Well, how about that? See there? Again, gonna walk away smart tonight, folks.
Yep.
You know,
Got our
we have a
thinking.
huge cemetery, Sarah says. Hold on. We have a huge cemetery named Rookwood in Sydney, NSW. What's NSW?
New South Wales.
New South Wales. I'm so glad you're here to interpret tonight. Motel had more parking. Did it really? Is that part of it?
A lot of hotels, you had to park somewhere else or valet it, or whereas a motel, you could generally expect to park on a property.
Huh? I had no idea. How about that?
You remember
All
those old motor courts that are like one level, usually L or U shaped, and you
Yes.
could park every one. You could park right in front of the room.
Right.
That was back in the days before the interstate.
Yep. Absolutely. You know, that's got me thinking about, you know, Highway 66 and all that. We got to do a Highway 66 tonight and just do all the hauntings, go all the way down the highway.
Driven on the Route 66. Some I hit it North Texas. Amarillo, I think, is where it now it goes all the way to Chicago. But I hit it like in Amarillo and then took it west when I moved to Las Vegas. And
there we go. Motels are cheaper, are they? Are motels hotel, Holiday Inn?
Cheaper,
Yeah.
like Motel 6, you know, and that sort of thing.
But they keep the light on for you, Steve.
Yeah,
that's extra. That's an extra
He's
benefit.
going to keep the light on. Whatever happened to Tom Bodett?
I don't know.
Say,
wherever he is, I hope the lights are on.
Homespun, Tom Bodett here for Motel 6.
It's like Garrison Keller, man. Did you tell them about you getting the book? Did you want to tell people that? That was so cool. I like Garrison Keller. I know he got into some kind of trouble, but who didn't?
Still alive. He's 69 years old, born February 23, 1955. American author, voice actor, woodworker, and radio personality.
How about that?
Shows on NPR, but says there's a video that came out. Tom Bodett's been leaving Motel 6 lights on for 35 years.
How about that? Bet you that's a hell of an electric bill.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what we got going on. This ought to be fun. Whoops. All right. What'd you do? Did you drop your?
I'm trying to fish this out of here. This is a book called The Brisk Verse. It's the recent release by
Garrison Keller.
My friend Garrison Keeler.
Keeler, there it is.
Healthful, invigorating. Excellent for reading aloud to friends and associates of all ages and dispositions. So that includes everybody here.
Isn't that great?
And he, for whatever reason, I guess he's a fan, sent me a copy. Says to Steve Stockton for him to read in his distinctive narrative voice.
Isn't that nice?
Keeler,
Isn't that nice?
Isn't that nice? I've been a fan, but I've never met the man.
Just out of the blue. I just think that's so cool.
Arrived in the mail, and I'm like, holy crap, that's a book from Garrison Keeler. And then it's signed and personalized to me. And I've wondered if I could interpret that for him to read in his distinctive narrative voice.
I was hoping you'd read it.
If I read some of it on YouTube, if we'd get a strike or something, there's some good ones in here too.
I bet you could do a chapter of it.
Get away with it. And then say, hey, look,
he's the one who sent it to you. Split it with. He'd probably split it with you.
Some of these are funny. Let me poem called Flatulence. Let us have another draught, a flagon of good stout, and leaning slightly to the left, we'll let the gases out, and follow this with some good wine from the Concord grape, and slightly to the right incline to let the gas escape. Now that's just the first stanza of Flatulence, but it's
just the first.
He's kind of an odd character, Minnesota.
Yeah,
Lake Wobegon was his fictitious town.
I used to call it Lake Obi-Wan. That's the only way I could remember it.
Hundreds, it looks like, of funny and poignant and a little bit of everything in here.
I used to love it when he did that. He'd talk about the people around the lake, and a lot of times when you have little towns like that, people love that because everybody knows everybody, and the newspaper guy and the donut guy and the coffee lady, and whoever around the town, the hardware guy, and the way towns used to be, and everybody knows each other, but when somebody like Garrison Keller does a story like that, people gather around because they want to know who you're going to talk about. What's the gossip? You know, because there's a little bit of truth in those stories.
Also knew everybody's business and stuff.
You can get in trouble quick.
And here's one that I really appreciated. It's just titled Eulogy. Someone said that it couldn't be done, but he with a smile replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he buckled right in with a bit of a grin, and his screwdriver touched a live wire, and he let out a cry and proceeded to die in a shower of sparks and fire. And the people who gave the eulogy spoke of honor and love and ambition. They spoke well of the dead, and nobody said, why didn't he call an electrician? Garrison Keillor, folks, just a sample there.
Just a sample, guys.
Wherever fine books are sold. I don't even know who it's published by. He's in his second year as an octogenarian stand-up comic. He lives with his wife in New York, but keeps going back to Minnesota where most of his friends are. Friendship is what it's all about, he says. Friendship and the Beatitudes and poetry.
That's a big difference between Lake Wobegon and New York.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. All right, kiddo. Here we go. There's some reading in here. You can do it. I can do it. We can let somebody else do it. Mulder can do it. Here we go. It's just a little bit at a time.
Stall Cemetery, Kansas.
Cemetaries all day.
The Stall Cemetery in Stall, Kansas already has the perfect horror movie setting, a sleepy town and an abandoned church. Several stories have been passed down over the years of witchcraft and diabolical occurrences surrounding the overgrown cemetery and its crumbling church.
Yeah, this one was huge.
Sounds like a horror film.
Yeah, it does.
Tales of a sudden and terrifying wind in the night, stories of rain and snow not touching the ground of the church despite it having no roof, and claims that the devil himself stalks the grounds.
This one sounded spooky, Steve. Said it visits twice a year, the devil.
Christmas
he's got his, yeah, probably.
The stories originate from a grisly murder that took place in the 19th century when the mayor was stabbed inside a barn on the property that eventually was converted into the present-day church. There's also a legend that an old tree on the grounds was used as a gallows. Either way, there's something eerie about this place that's unsettled visitors for decades.
I don't know about this one, Steve. If I was standing right there and that happened, that'd freak me out.
Yeah, I went the other way.
I mean, where'd he go?
Well, they conveniently moved the camera too far over, so
Yeah.
you can't see if they ran across the
You
other
can't
side.
see. But if you were there and it happened,
Yeah,
it'd be rough. It'd be rough.
Story.
Yeah. Hold it. And I don't like the walking around those mausoleums. Things would be around every corner, and you don't know. You know?
Poe's grave in Western Burial Ground, Maryland.
Yep. That looks so cold. It
Just
looks
a
so
little-
cold.
Little anecdote here. Nicole and I got married in the cemetery in Providence, where Edgar Allan Poe proposed to Elizabeth. I proposed there, and then we came back and got married at Lovecraft's grave after dark.
How about that?
About that. Now, that
After dark.
proposed there, that's closer to in Baltimore, so a bit farther.
There you go.
Lovecraft
It looks
in Providence.
looks cold. I can tell you that it looks really
This
cold.
graveyard in Baltimore, Maryland has one thing going for it. It's the final resting place of horror writer and poet Edgar Allan Poe.
It's got the Nevermore. It's got the
His
raven up
friends
there.
called him Eddie, I bet. If that doesn't give you chills, maybe some of his stories will. This cemetery has an unfortunate history of live burials.
That's just, you figure one.
Yeah. And we talked about that on the show that I had with a girl that's going to mortician school, and how it came up with the term dead ringer.
Mhm.
They had little bells, the wealthy to-do people. They would attach, hang those up in the cemetery in a fresh grave, And then there was a cord that ran down into the grave inside the coffin. And this was in a time before there was it wasn't any embalming or whatever. And if the dead came to life and had the wherewithal to find this little string, they could yank on it. And that's where the graveyard shift comes from. They paid somebody to sit in the graveyard overnight for, I think, the first 2 or 3 nights. After that, it's probably like not
Yeah.
much.
Right.
And listen for the bells. So a dead ringer, we've got a dead ringer. That's,
Yep.
it wasn't dead.
How
And
about that?
the graveyard shift was the guy that sat in the cemetery and listened for that tinky, 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 tink.
Can you imagine?
So I
Can
said,
you imagine?
ground,
We did a
yeah, go ahead.
some of the listeners and I did a mystery, a CBS mystery, and it was Mark Twain wrote a story about that, and it was more like a cold cave in Germany where they would set people up on, these almost naturally made slabs, and they would have the bell, and somebody would sit in that room, and wait for that bell to ring. 3 days, just like you said.
Judaism, they sat Shiva with the corpse.
Uh-huh.
And then even back in the day, I didn't hear it because he died when I was 6 months old, but my grandfather talked about setting with the dead. I don't remember one of his relatives. And the guy had died sitting in a chair, and he was like rigor mortis into that shape. And they had to tie him down. And I've heard this story told by other people, but my grandfather told it to his family that it happened to him. Who knows? He's not around to say.
Wow.
But they had the guy tied to the bed to kind of straighten him out. Well, they had the window open, and a cat came in the window and was trotting around on the corpse. He got after the cat with a broom, took a swipe at it, and untied the corpse, and it sat up.
Oh.
And the guy that was in there with my grandpa helping with the other kid, they were just kids, he jumped out the window when the corpse sat up. He was dead, just hadn't the rigor hadn't passed yet.
That's wow.
Totally a true story. So, and I've heard other versions of that.
I think that's some jump right out the window. The cat was probably not far behind.
Yeah, the cat's like, I'm over here too. I'm not race you.
That's funny. Okay, that's funny.
Many spirits are said to haunt the ground, looking for revenge on those who buried them prematurely. There's even tales of a buried skull.
Okay. Oops, wait a minute. I jumped too far.
Going backwards now. I have to read it backwards. Okay.
No, don't read it backwards. No. Okay, there we go.
The sound of the screams that seem to be coming from the severed head of a former minister. Many have claimed to hear the sound of screams, and some even claimed it caused detrimental effects to their mental health. Yeah, I can't believe a screaming skull wouldn't cause you a problem. So.
Right? Mental health. I would have problems too. PTSD, paranormal PTSD, I think. Hey, well, that's a good name for a show.
Traumatic stress disorder.
Yep. There you go.
This is
creepy.
Caught on video in the cemetery in Mexico.
¿Quién eres, niño?
These hallways.
Niño. Manche. Oh, man.
I think I'll go this way.
Really fast. The thing I can't get, the thing that bothers me is it's in the camera. Just being able to see what you see through the camera, if that's what you are seeing, and not knowing what's behind you. You know what I mean? To just turn and run, or to make those turns, or you're chasing something and you don't know what's around every turn. That's the scariest part. Just like in a video game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got Boot Hill Cemetery, Arizona.
Yeah, no, I've been to there. It's
have you?
Is it Tombstone, Boot Hill, or is it Dodge City?
Tombstone.
There's a Kansas. I don't know. Let's see, Boot Hill Cemetery. I'm sure there's actually a Boot Hill Cemetery in Dodge City, Kansas, but then there's other Boot Hills. That was just what they call those places. They were buried with their boots on, literally, and sometimes the boots would be sticking up. They just piled rocks on them.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Tombstone, Arizona. There's another Boot Hill, like the OK Corral. I don't know.
I didn't know that, and that's why they called it Boot Hill.
Tombstone, Arizona has the honor of being among the most haunted of the bunch of graveyards, being haunted by their Wild West legends. Several graves from the winning of the West mark the grounds.
Wow. Boot Hill. I never knew that, Steve.
Yeah, they buried them with their. Then there used to be, I think it's a book or something called "They Died with Their Boots On."
Guy with the boots on. Now that I'd heard, but I didn't know what it was pertaining to.
But the cemetery became famous when a photographer released a photo of what appeared to be a full-bodied ghost in the background, brandishing a knife. This has led many to flock to the area to see this phenomenon for themselves.
I've seen that picture. It's pretty
Is that the
spectacular.
one who the
This
guy
is
thought-
scary. This is so scary. What's this kid doing out in the middle of nowhere? In the middle of a graveyard, in the middle of the night.
Howard Street
Right?
Cemetery. I don't know where that is in Massachusetts. I've got a couple of Massachusetts cemeteries I was going to mention. I don't
Is
know.
this one of them?
I that doesn't sound familiar, but it doesn't. You know, Massachusetts is a big place.
Just
so.
jam full of the dead. Look here. That's what I was wondering, because I picked out a couple Massachusetts ones. I didn't know if you were familiar with them or not.
Few places in the world are more rife with the talk of paranormal happenings than Salem, Massachusetts. Giles Corey famously cried out for more weight when he was pressed to death after conviction of practicing witchcraft. Hurry up, put more rocks on.
More weight. I'll never forget that the first time I heard it. Nope. Okama says nope. And it goes for the knife.
Perhaps less well known are his cries that he cursed the land of Salem before his death. Now, I haven't been to Salem yet, but it's on my bucket.
Is it on your bucket list?
I'm about an hour from there. Since then, Salem residents, including the famous Nathaniel Hawthorne, claim to have experienced the apparition of Corey haunting the place where he died and the cemetery.
You got to go there, Steve. You got to make sure you get there.
Others have mentioned the strange aura the cemetery seems to take on at night, appearing incredibly quiet for its busy location in the town. Yeah, they go balls out for Halloween in Salem.
I bet you they do.
Though, stay away for the whole month of October.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially, they said Halloween in Salem is like Mardi Gras in New Orleans. It's
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. Well, it's never like when you like what you imagine, but just saying that you were there on Halloween. Like when I went to Gettysburg and I'm on the field in the battlefield at midnight and Halloween night. I can't tell you how wow that was, you know, and to be able to say you were there, you know.
Stuff here.
Yeah, the ghost with the knife, that would freak me out too. What's Ted saying?
Others have mentioned the strange aura. Okay, I already read that one.
Yep, you read this one.
Yep.
I just wanted to hear your story. This is wild. This is inside. This picture's inside the Salem Museum. I'm sure it's wild.
Yeah, there's a couple different museums up there in Salem. There's a dozen different witch tours and things. I'll make it up there.
I hear there's a big the Salem Witch Museum, which is pretty big. It just got renovated or something.
There's a lot of interesting B&Bs up there too, as you would imagine.
Oh, this one. This one's a trip. Steve, have you seen this one? Look at behind the guy. Look at behind the guy.
Oh, look at that. No, I don't think I have seen this one.
This was part of a bigger thing where the guy was just kind of going around the graveyard and had this, you know, kind of in the background. Look at this. You can see arms and everything.
Wow.
Almost like he's comforting. Like, it's either comforting or pulling the energy off. One of the two, you know. It's hard to say. We'd like to think it was comforting. You know what I mean? But like, here we go again. You see it lean in. I can see a distinctive like T-shirt and a head and everything. Couldn't you? That was a trip. Did you get a good look? Here, look at it again one more time. Look at the head and the almost like a T-shirt short sleeve. Because there's a cutoff on here on the arms where that color of the shirt or something stops. It's wild. What do you think, Chet? Yeah, oh my, right? Yep. You can almost see the distinct between the, you know, for the head and the hair and everything. It's wild. Energy could be an energy. It could be, Ted. It could be an energy vampire. We don't know. And I know you've been here.
There you go. Been there to that one.
This
And
one. Did you
also
want to
very
say something
reminiscent-
about the other one? I saw you looking. Did you have something you wanted to say about the one in Maryland?
No.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Now this is the one you were at, the
yeah, I've
Hollywood
been to
Forever.
Hollywood Forever and Forest Lawn.
Okay, two
I
different
can't remember
ones.
who's married where, but
Yeah.
that one's up near Glendale, I think. There you go. The cemetery in Hollywood, or this cemetery in Hollywood, California, goes back to the 19th century and is the eternal host to several famous Hollywood stars. The Psalms Museum is said to be haunted by cold drafts, eerie sounds, and the ghost of Clifton Webb.
Clifton Webb. Do you recall him? Anybody recall?
Clifton Webb.
I hate to say it. I know the name, but I'm not getting any kind of visual whatsoever. The Virginia Rap. Virginia Rap again. Are you looking up Clifton Webb?
Yeah,
Hold
he was
on.
an American actor and singer. Born in 1889 in Indianapolis, died October 13th, 1966 in Beverly Hills, California.
Beverly Hills.
Wow. He won an Academy Award.
Thank you.
He was in the Mr. Belvedere movies.
Okay, okay.
And the grave of Virginia Rapp, or Rappé, or how you say it. It's also a hotbed for cold spots, as many believe her spirit seeks justice for her unsolved murder. That was from the infamous Fatty Arbuckle trial.
Okay, I knew the name, and I couldn't place her till you just said that. I've got it now. Thank you. Yep. Do the guess who? Okay, let's continue. I was catching up with the chat and everything too. Let's see here. I'll tell you what, they have some cool gravestones. Look, there's Johnny Ramone. Isn't that wild, right? Do you want to read this one?
The grave of Virginia Rappé is also a hotbed for cold spots, as many believe her spirit seeks justice for her unsolved murder.
It sounds like you just said that.
Yeah, it was on the other slide too. You put it in front of me, I'll read it.
Did I? I'm sorry.
One such ghost story is that of Rudolph Valentino, whose grave is said to be visited often by a mysterious apparition in black that leaves fresh roses at his vault.
That's just so creepy.
That still goes on, but that went on for decades.
For quite a while, and it's creepy.
Also, when Joe DiMaggio was still alive, he had fresh flowers put on Marilyn Monroe's marker. I think something like that. I can't remember which one she's in.
I think he paid up for even after he was gone that it would continue. That's wild. I've often thought about that. Being a floral designer, I'm thinking, how would your shop handle that? I love this guy. This is Frank's TV. Frank's.tv. It's on here. He's on YouTube, and he walks through these graveyards like it's nothing. I don't know how he does it. This one he got locked in, I think.
Move through here.
Because the caretaker locked him in. And I'm like, I would have so jumped that fence. I'm telling you right now. I couldn't do this.
Come on, light.
Just turn in the corners.
That was the weirdest thing.
You're going around. Now, to me, let me go back here just a second to show you something. See, now I can stand there and say, okay, if you're here, see this tree here? It's covered in wind chimes. Why wouldn't you just sit there on the bench and say, if there's somebody here that wants to communicate with me, can you move the wind chimes? I mean, something that simple should be able. No, he's got to go around with nothing but a flashlight, walking around all these dark corners, taking all these hard lefts and stuff, walking up into these mausoleums.
I think is most creepiest.
It just makes my heart just crazy. Now look what he's walked up in on. Look at this mess. Yep. Franco, yep.
What the hell is that?
He's something, isn't he?
It's moving.
And I'm going to start making videos similar to that at some point. Got this little nifty camera here. It's a DJI Osmo Pocket 3. It's like a little drone camera, but it's on a handheld thing. I don't know if
that is so cool. I got one similar like that for my birthday, Steve. We could walk around the fields and do stuff like this all day long. We'll be having a ball.
It's really rock stable. That's coming soon to
I love it.
My channels.
That's great.
Does a really good job of it. Only got to test it so far, but there's a couple of cemeteries.
Watch my six. Hold on.
You ought to do it. I dare you do this, Steve. Walk around the mausoleums. Just walk up into ghosts having, it looks like a tea party or something. Some kind of gathering they're having out here.
On
Look at
my
this.
Tales Untold channel, go over there and look at that video I made about the
I'm actually
mausoleum in Portland, Oregon.
getting
Will
a little
help.
bit creeped out right now. Have my car right there.
Yeah,
So
if this
he's
guy's
got
by
locked in.
himself, He's kind of brave. He got locked
Yeah.
in.
He got locked in. The caretaker locked him in. He could see his car.
Marco.
Why he's not. And now he's hollering Marco
Probably asking
Polo.
why I'm saying Marco.
I can't
So
take it.
inside joke.
Does anything answer
Well, it was
back?
supposed to be a joke, but it,
In
on
a
one of
couple
my
of them,
videos, I did
yeah.
the same
He's
thing.
got some EVPs in the
And you could
background,
actually
like
hear a
somebody will say
response
hello. I think one of them, hey, Cat, didn't one of them, he had somebody answered him? Here it comes here. Look at this. Did you guys see it? Did you see it? Now, where did it go?
I
Put
legit
my
just saw
gear
a
back
shadow.
in. It's waterproof. See?
Here, I'll
I'm
run
saying
it back.
Marco. It's a little inside joke.
Okay.
Well, it was supposed to
Hold
be
on.
a joke, but it, on one of my videos, I
He's
did
going to
the
be
same
right
thing,
there.
and you could actually hear a response back.
Here it comes. Right there. See it? I would just stop it.
That'd be hard no for me.
Hard no. Look, look.
I legit
No
just saw a shadow.
footsteps. No.
I legit just saw a shadow.
It's just creepy anyway. It's just creepy. You got no business doing this mess. You know what I mean? What are you doing? I mean, really, Steve, it's like anything. It could be, you know, a crazed homeless person,
Yeah.
anything. Could be walking in, you know, on a drug deal or some
Yeah,
kind of
anything.
mess. And that's it. You got no business. That's like, you know, our parents would tell us.
Yeah.
You got no business doing that. And sure enough, he walks in on something. He sees something out here. See this? Look at this. That's somebody's head. You can see the hair.
Is it like a severed head?
So
or
this is Franco. I don't know. He's a pistol.
Not all the dead can rest in peace. Sometimes spirits linger, haunting the overgrown paths that wind through old graveyards and spooking those who dare to tread upon their bones. Boy, that's ominous, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it though? Well, we are tramping through graveyards at night, looking at ghosts. What y'all got? Yep. I know. Why are they peeping and hiding? Why are they always playing hide and go seek? It's kind of like the Continental Army.
Look at that orb up in the tree.
Now, this is another one where she said she had no idea that she's
No.
videotaping these things, but I hear her saying, you know, some of them she didn't see till afterwards. That's why she keeps moving it. But this is an awful lot like that Gettysburg one, but it's not. It's not Gettysburg. This is outside of
See that flashing?
Cemetery. Off in the field. It's very similar to that Gettysburg one, but you see how they almost look all white, like they have, you know, and when they come out of the ground, their legs are almost together, like as one, and they come up. I don't know. What do you guys think? It's hard to tell these days. And that's from S3A Monkeys. This is from Frankly 2112. And this is an old abandoned cemetery where the headstones go back to like the 1700s. And he's tramping through there. And again, this is one of those where he didn't realize what he picked up till after. This is the weirdest thing. What do you guys see here? And now I looped it a bunch of times. It looks to me like something sitting with some kind of cloak on, holding something that's glowing around the outside of a pot or an energy of some kind. I don't know. It's weird. I ran it back a couple times so you could see it. He says he didn't see anything. That's so weird. It looks like it's holding something that's glowing in a pot, like a old cast iron kettle or something. It's really weird. And then it just takes off and disappears. So weird. And this is another one very similar. It's like just a light. They don't realize they have it. And then they start to focus. And then they realize it's not just a light. There's something next to it holding a light. Just like the last one. 2 different people, 2 different places. When you get real close up on it, it looks like a face looking into like a globe of some sort. Look at that. Looks like they're holding something that's glowing. It's really strange. I don't know whether that's an ET or... This one is definitely something else. This is the little kid that jumps out of the tree. Remember this one, Steve? Yep. It just doesn't get much better than this one. It did look like somebody in a shroud. It could be, or holding a glowing orb or something. I don't know. It was very strange. This one is just too good.
And the people didn't seem to notice.
Nope. Nope. And the kid didn't realize it till, you know, I think he did realize it when he was recording. When it fell into the ground, he just stopped right there. He just stops. I think I believe this one out of most of them, Steve. I really do. Now, this is a dead children's playground in Huntsville, Alabama. The one that I put about in my book in Cabin 22. In Huntsville, Alabama. That's exactly what it doesn't look very scary. I assure you, at night, it's a lot scarier. It's a little, you know, to go by and the swings are swinging all by themselves. It's crazy.
There was one like that in Las Vegas, too, where there was one swing that would swing.
Just one?
Yeah.
And was it like, did they call it a dead children's playground?
Yeah,
this one's
actually some young murder victims had been found there and they thought it was them.
Yeah. This one's right outside of Maple Hill Cemetery, and it's a huge, beautiful cemetery with all these gorgeous statuary and these old headstones going way back. I mean, the history in this place is something. Talk about your graveyard history tours. That place would be great for that because there's so many, famous people there that, from that area.
So
historical characters.
That's kind of odd.
Right next to it, a playground out of nowhere.
Huntsville's historic Maple Hill Cemetery is a playground that looks much like any other, featuring a modern swing set and climbing apparatus. But this playground isn't like others. Passers-by often say they can see the swings moving of their own volition, as well as orbs or spectral figures.
Absolutely.
Scary.
It is. I mean, and you just go there at night anyway. You got this is what the cemetery looks like. And then you've got this playground right next to it.
The playground is surrounded on 3 sides by the limestone that formed many caves in the area, giving it a shadowed appearance that lends itself to spooky legends.
Yep.
What better place to put a playground?
Yep.
I don't think that's a light.
These ladies crack me up.
What I just saw was eyeballs right over there. Oh my God.
This makes no sense what somebody would be doing out here at this time of night, just sitting. It's so creepy.
And if it is somebody sitting there, they're probably like, who are these 2 ladies out here with these flashlights? What's going on?
Yeah.
I don't get scared very often.
I mean, out in the middle of nowhere. So on this, I don't know what this is, a ledge of some kind. See this guy?
Yep.
See him sitting on the wall?
Yep.
What is that?
And they're whispering like, what is this? Making all this noise walking around.
Seeing things.
The whispering ain't going to help because he's already heard them and already seen their lights, I would say.
The flashlight. Look at this guy just sitting there on this wall.
Yep.
I mean, even if it is a living human being, it's scary.
It's a big something dark, something dark standing there.
But if you've ever seen this one,
It just moved.
now they're like, let's go.
See, it just moved.
Let's go.
Time to
I think
vacate.
we should. Time to go.
I don't like this.
And she gets her backpack pulled, like yanked back. Nothing's there. And then something knocks the other lady down.
I think we need to go. I'm
Yep.
telling you, I want to get out of here.
Stop
I'm
talking about
moving.
it. Go.
I don't feel right.
Better go. They're almost to their car. I can't even believe they're this far in this graveyard.
What the was that?
There it comes.
Oh my god! Oh my god, you scared the out of me! Oh my god. Sorry. Oh my god. Did something touch you? Yes, something touched me. It's like it tagged on my shirt, pulling me back.
And don't these ladies realize this can
over there,
follow you
Stacy.
home?
Oh my god.
How many calls, Steve?
I want to go too.
Something followed me home, Steve.
Oh my god.
The first question, what were you doing and where were you doing it?
Oh
Yeah.
my god. What the just pushed me down?
There she is.
Stacy. I don't know.
She's down,
Stacy,
folks.
something just pushed me down.
She's down.
Find a picture I've got here that I took. Let's see if I can find it here.
You got a picture you want to show?
If I can find it, if I'd have thought
All right,
about
let me
it
know.
earlier, I would have already hunted it up. I've got it.
The mask.
Scrolling back
Like a
through the
white
years.
mask.
Hold on a
Photos.
minute, Wendy's catching something on the camera.
Yeah.
Now this guy's got a white
It's got a
mask.
white mask.
If you can't
Yeah.
understand what he's
Right
saying.
there in Headstone.
Really?
That's
And it
that's where
goes
you
in
were
between the
standing.
stones. It disappears into the stone and becomes a head
Yeah.
that's looking around the
Wow, you've got a
stone.
white mist.
It's
It's like
crazy.
a white ball of mist.
A white ball of mist. But watch the mist. It's almost
Stone.
absorbed into the
Gone
stone.
now. Turn the light on. It's
See,
gone.
it's still there.
Is it
It's
still
just
there
kind of playing almost
No.
peekaboo with
Gone.
him.
So,
And then it goes right into the stone, and then you'll see a head comes around the stone and looks at him. And this is the Ghost Adventures of Cornwall, where our friend Mark is from. Here comes the head. Look at it. See? See it peeking around the corner?
Yep.
You can see that the eyebrows and the eyes and everything. That's
to
crazy. That is crazy.
Feel a breeze.
It floats
all
in
kinds of
and
going
hits
on
that
here, mate.
stone and then becomes a little more solid and starts looking around the corner.
All kinds of going on.
Are you catching one?
You're on that headstone there,
Yeah.
right?
Where the light-
Yep, peekaboo. Look at that. You can see the eyes and the beginning of the nose and everything. It became more solid. That's crazy.
I'm going to send you a picture here in Messenger. And since I send it to you, then there's
This one goes kind of fast, but it does look like a little boy in the, what do you call the pants with suspenders? You know, like the old fashioned kind of, you can almost see the suspenders on him. It'll slow down here in just a second. Yeah, that knickers. Yeah, you can see the suspenders on his white shirt. And you can see his little face and his bangs. It's crazy. This one is just almost solid, but even the hair is white, so it's strange. And it keeps coming and going because, again, he didn't realize what he had till after. He didn't see anything. He didn't see anything there out of the corner of his eye, nothing. He didn't see it till after the fact. She's just out there dancing around in this field. You sent me a couple, Steve. I'll grab them.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I might be able to share it here.
Again, he said he saw nothing. She almost looks like she's out there dancing.
When you get ready, let me know and I'll give you the story.
All right, let me stop this
Two
and I'll
pictures
pull
there.
it. So I didn't know where that was going to stop.
I've got it shared down there. You just have to add it to the screen. And
Oh, okay. Cool beans. That's easier.
I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's yours truly back in the early 90s.
Wow.
And I'm in a place called Philippi Cemetery. I believe it's in Mountain City, Tennessee. It's in Johnson County. It's in the northeastern tip of Tennessee. If it's not in Mountain City, it's just outside of it. I needed a photo for something I was doing. My friend Dennis and I were the only ones there. We walked all the way through it. It's not a very big cemetery, but if you look in the back, you can see it's to right under the double P there in the eye.
Right, I see it. There's a
Like
person
somebody
walking.
sitting on a stone.
Yeah.
And then there's a woman looks like with her hands on her hips. There was nobody there when that photo was taken. Now let me
Wow, Steve.
show you the zoom in on that now. Whoops, wrong one. That one.
Look at that. And she's looking the other way, sitting on a stone, looking out.
It's like there's somebody sitting on a stone looking down at us.
Right.
And then somebody standing there. That one looks female with her hands on her hips. There was nobody in that cemetery. Nobody.
Wow.
Me and my friend.
And where was this again? What state?
Tennessee. I believe it's Mountain City, Tennessee, but it is for sure Johnson County, Tennessee. If it's not Mountain City, it's just outside. You can Google.
And there was nobody there.
Nobody there except for me and my
That's
friend Dennis.
trippy.
Isn't
That is so trippy. Yeah, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. Wow. The things we catch, you know? And I mean, I've done it myself and caught a couple of some of my best shots. I had no idea when I took them I was going to get something. All right, this is another one, just one of those shadow figures kind of walking through the wood edge. And, you know, to be honest, it could be anything. I mean, it could be a Bigfoot for Pete's sake. But just to kind of prelim on Steve's story and Shannon LeGroux and so many others that have this kind of shadow figure in the edge of the woods kind of thing, I wanted to put this up here to give you a kind of a visual to go along with that, because I think it'd be creepy as all get out just to see something dark. It's dark like that. There's nothing, no light coming off of it, you know? This was funny. I don't know if you've seen the whole thing, but these guys were so stoned, smoking a blunt, looking out the window, and this woman's walking around the cemetery.
This camera until she come out from behind that tombstone.
Yeah. This is when she just disappears behind a tombstone.
She's gone. Where the f did she go? We watched her walk behind the tombstone and she's gone.
She gone. So they watched her for like 20 minutes, and she'd bend down, she'd go through stuff, and this one guy was getting so scared, and the other guy was just sitting back laughing at him because he said she's gonna come up here, you know, if you keep yelling at her. She didn't respond to them at all, and then just disappeared behind a tombstone. There's that girl again. That's just, I know it's just eye shine, but it looks creepy. You know? Now there's another one. So are they cutting it and editing that? Or is there somebody sitting? That's so strange.
Kind of there's an illusion called Pepper's Ghost where it's reflected on glass.
On
That's
glass?
how they do, like at Disney World, Disneyland, where the ghosts are dancing and stuff. That's
that's it.
It's
Pepper's Ghost. I remember that.
Pepper's Ghost is the name of the effect.
Yep. It's a magician's trick.
Could be done that way.
Mm-hmm. Look at all this statuary. Can you imagine the money and the art of the tradesmen who did these? It's just amazing for so long.
The story behind Rapunzel's tunnel or tower there.
Oh wow, it's probably a good one.
Stuck in Jacksonville.
Here he is again. He's locked in again.
That's the way out.
Same guy.
As
This
it
is
gets
Franco.
darker, he begins to hear bizarre noises from somewhere.
That's
among
Nuke.
the
You recognize that
graves.
voice?
All right, guys. So right now, I'm still in this graveyard.
Now he's walking through, and he hears a music box. How creepy is this?
Oh, give me
Stop
a
it.
fucking break.
Now, did he set it up earlier? Who knows? Hey, Andrew, how you doing? It's still creepy. Even if I was the one doing it, I would be creeped out. Aren't they? Yeah, they are, Lindsay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ghost Brothers.
I'm trying to find it. But I don't want to get too close. Look at this size.
Could
of
be.
this thing.
Could be.
Hello?
Some of these mausoleums, man, I'm telling you, the workmanship. All right, now here's another one peeking around. What is it with these ghosts peeking?
It's like a black thing.
So you don't know, though. You don't know if it's a ghost. You don't know if it's a Grim Reaper or, you know, some transient somebody or anybody or somebody doing what you're doing. Imagine two ghost hunters coming in on each other in the middle of a grave.
Oh my god, that was so fucking creepy.
Scaring the heck out of each other. Remember that old story,
I wanna make sure I
Steve,
have
where
a
this
picture
one
on.
girl scared
Let me see if
herself
I
to
can catch
death?
what it was.
Something was going to grab her from the grave, and she had to put nails in the ground or something. She accidentally caught the hem of her dress and thought the ghost had her and died of fright. Remember that story? I'm telling you, you could work yourself up into a fizz and die of fright right there in the graveyard. Save the ride, I guess. I guess they'd still have to haul you out of there and go fix you up and bring you
It's not
back.
even there no more. Of course it's not even there no more.
Now he says that his camera battery was being really drained right there, and that's the explanation for the lights.
I got goosebumps and chills. Jesus Christ.
His blood pressure. And there it goes again. As he's leaving, he's getting out of there. The music box starts again.
Concede, I heard that same story from my dad, and that was the way he
No.
shed the stick of fork in the grave.
Is that what it was? Was a fork?
I've heard different versions of it, but that was the one he told.
Is he from Tennessee?
Yeah.
And went to Florida where he was a male nurse? Oh, okay. Well, he certainly has it has nerves of steel there, I guess, you know.
Nobody.
Something made of steel.
Holy shit.
Yep, nerves of steel. I know. It's so sad. I mean, why? Why is she hanging around there? And this is the guy that come and let him out. This is a close-up of the head. You can see the face with the hood. I don't know. There's more to that. There's more to it. Now, he's the one that's got my favorite one that scared me to death, my Ghost and Curlers. It's coming up. It took me all day to find it, but I found that clip. I was so proud of myself. Ghosts are whispers of history, softly spoken in the silence of old cemeteries. Wow. Yeah, it took me all day to find that one, Steve. I promised you a Ghost and Curlers. That and she's wearing her Ethel Mertz robe. Trips me out. Can you see that one? I know that was hard to see.
Dean Hill Cemetery, unofficially known as the Rev, started as a burial ground for Revolutionary veterans and their families in 1791. Many stones have been stolen or broken. It's not uncommon to see clumps of gravestones in piles.
Isn't that sad? So sad. Now, they had a special little thing in here for me, and Steve will catch it. But I'm wondering if there isn't some kind of a theme going on here in this next part.
As with many semi-abandoned cemeteries, ghostly images have been reported for years, mostly of Revolutionary soldiers with glowing eyes. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Glowing eyes? Revolutionary War soldiers? That's the first ghost memory I have. And I'm wondering, Steve, maybe everybody from the Revolutionary War, they're just still so angry. You know, I don't know. It's
These are
crazy.
reported to happen between midnight and 3 a.m. in the fall. There are rumors of a stone that reads, "He who stands upon thy grave shall follow."
That's a threat right there. But isn't that something with glowing eyes? Revolutionary War soldiers with
Red eyes, red ribbon.
Red eyes, red ribbon. Red eyes, red ribbon. Oh my gosh, that brings back memories. I'm telling you what. And this is Dean Hill Cemetery. It's in Ohio, and it looks so cold. Look how cold it looks. It looks terrible. I hate a cemetery in the snow. I don't know why. Just creeps me out. Yep. Look at them in piles. Isn't that awful? Live all that time and now all tore up. The stories of spirits and haunts goes on through the years. Old stories include teenagers fleeing the area on foot and 2 of them disappearing. Now this could be something to up your dark alley there, Steve, because now they're starting to run away and disappear.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be some type of a portal here. And this is crazy. Had you ever heard of this one?
I don't think so.
In the late 80s. You do it. No, you go.
In the late 80s, a rumor started that a ritual was performed there that opened a portal between worlds. Local legends also include a story of a man in his 20s found burned on the road. People reported hearing loud screams at night. Well, I guess so.
So a portal in the 80s, maybe some leftover kids from the satanic panic of the 70s and the early 80s, and they opened up a portal because they didn't know what they were messing with. And now look what you got. People running into it, disappearing. They say that now the story was a lot of the cops and people in the town would say that they would have like a gathering thing and have parties or lovers lane, that kind of stuff, where they're gathering up there having keggers in the woods, right? So the cops or the police come and scatter everybody. And when they run, some of these kids are falling into this portal and come up missing. So they'll go like sometimes 2 at a time or more. And I don't know if you've ever crossed that with one of your stories. You know what I mean? That's crazy. Now you got people missing out of cemeteries, Steve. There's an episode.
Well, you had the resurrection men back in the day that would dig up a body and sell it to the university or a doctor.
Yeah. The cadaver. Yeah, absolutely. Now we knew it was coming, folks. We got ghosts texting you and sending you emails, and now we've got the ghost drone. So now people are taking drones with cameras and running them over the cemetery, and they're finding stuff. Look at this.
You've seen those with the Teslas and some of those cars that have the
yes, that's so
detection.
creepy.
They drive them through a cemetery and you see stick figures of people walking around.
Yep. And this one, he's sitting, you can see him sitting in front of the gravestone, and he notices a drone and looks up at it and takes off and disappears.
Out of there.
It just disappears. It's trippy. Now, whether he's out of the range of I can't tell you. I'm not a tech person. To me, that's creepy. And I'm sure just as creepy for him. He's sitting there, eating his lunch or something there at the gravestone at 3 o'clock in the morning. And a drone shows up. And he said, that's it. I'm taking my canned peaches and moving on. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't that look what he's eating? He looks like one of those old cartoons where they're, eating something out of a can of beans or something.
Vienna sausage.
So I don't.
Yeah, Vienna sausage. Yep.
It's Frank. Vienna sausage.
Vienna sausage. Golly, yeah. Potted meat.
Yep.
Something moaning or crying on the
Poor
outside.
man's pate.
Or someone yelling. It's about like 1 or 2 right now.
He's got his little clip underneath his little hat.
And yelling, and it's just echoing into this location. The sound of a metal hitting further back there, but nothing.
I think he's bitten off more than he can chew on this one, though.
I'm looking at the.
There's somebody peeking around the corner there. Now, what is it with all these ghosts peeking around the corner of all these mausoleums and stuff? It's like there's something around every single doorway.
What is that? When I turn on the light and I turn it off, it looks like there's something just standing there. I'm getting eaten alive by these mosquitoes.
That's scary too.
It's like right in there. Just
right? He is, dark. Right? I love Frank.
Go ahead and turn on the light again. It could be just
they are handy.
Something standing there.
A little clip. Just clip it right on your visor. Okay, so here's the one where now again somebody walking around 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, he's walking around 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not unheard of, but
you see it?
not really dressed for it, if you know what I mean.
Turned off.
Could be. Could be. But this part creeps me out. It's one thing to see them walking around. It's another thing when they notice you.
They're just walking back and forth. Oh,
And then he starts coming for him.
I don't know what that was. I thought it looked like a
Go!
kid or
Go!
some sort of
Get out of there,
homeless
Franco.
person out there. But when I saw that thing running towards me, that freaked me the hell out.
It would me too. I'd be like screaming. Ah! It's like that one jump scare they've got where this is it. This is the ghost and curlers. Look at this.
Do you need help?
Are you kidding me?
Like she's wearing fuzzy slippers.
Do you need help?
She's got the fuzzy slip on. She's got the robe. She's got the house coat. She's got the curlers. Looks like curlers in her hair. And he just like, nope,
Yeah,
nope,
not doing that.
nope.
Not doing that.
Not doing that. This one was very creepy too. This is another one where somebody took a picture of the graveyard. This little gray face and then something dark standing up in the back. Look at that. That's so creepy to me because how many houses we've talked about, Steve, where there's a little girl and then something dark that's kind of
If I'm not
controlling.
mistaken, that one's on Google Earth or something.
Could be. There's another one where the baby's just sitting there and you can see right through him.
Yeah.
Now, again, you don't know who took these. You don't know where they've come from. You don't have a lot of backstory on them. You can't, This one we had a little backstory. This was two people coming in from the bar and they just decided they were going to cut through the graveyard. And he lays down on it and says, get a picture. And look what pops up behind him. Another one where we're wondering, are you comforting them? Are they, Now, this is a famous one, too, of this lady just sitting here on the bench. It's just, there's so many. And like we say all the time, Steve, if just one of them is real, something's going on.
Just takes one.
Just one, and well, it's a shame to say we're at the point now where we got to see in our lifetime going from cherishing that one ghost picture, the brown lady or whatever in the encyclopedia, the occult encyclopedia, whatever it might have been back when we were kids, to now there's so much of it we don't know what's real and what isn't, Well, there we go. But ghosts don't give a sheet. I can assure you that, because they're going to be there with you, believe in them or not. Right, Steve?
That's right.
Well, there you go. Well, that's pretty something else. I had no idea you had that picture of the
I
graveyard.
forgot about that. It jogged my memory.
That's pretty cool. It's something new. We can always dig up new stuff. And you've got this great story. So did you have any more on those other? I have one that I'm going to bring up if we got enough time after your story of the old tenement church, because since we're doing this thing with the summer event of watching Liberty and doing Sons of Liberty and doing a little bit of Turn and the Culper Spy Ring and everything, it's going to be great. And Lynn will be back, not this Sunday. She'll be doing a convention. She's doing the bash. And after that, she should be back and she's keeping up with us. And I hope you guys are too. But since we're doing that, I'm hoping that in the fall, at the end of our event, I'll be able to maybe go to Fort Monmouth and take you and do a live from there, or, at least do a remote from there and take you to the old tenement church. But that was always something when I was a kid. My mom took me there. She took me to Molly Pitcher's Well, and she told me all about the battle and everything. But man, going to that church, I'll never forget it. And she told me the story about the soldier getting hit and, how they used it as a hospital during the battle and everything. And it's just so weird to be a kid. Steve, I don't know if you went through this or not. When you go to different places, like, you go on that weekend trip your dad or whatever, or however you wind up going on those little family excursions, and you go to places like Gettysburg or Fredericksburg or Valley Forge, and you remember the little things, the wax museum stuff or whatever a display might be, but you never quite get the whole idea of what went on that
Yeah.
land. You know, it's a trip when you go there later as an adult and the things that you get from it. You know, it's really a trip. All right, so we've got this one here. I forget how I pulled that. Oh, okay. I'm going to have to share screen. Are you ready for your story?
Yep. Let her rip.
Okay. Let her rip. And guys, this I'm going to let this just play. This is we figured there's no reason having Steve do the story again when he's done it to, you know, just about perfection on this. So we're going to share this with you. This is one of my favorite Steve Stockton stories. Not just because of the nostalgia of it and all of the different stuff that goes on in the story, but because it has that that nostalgia ring to it, where you're in the car on a Friday night and you're done roller skating, you got your fries, maybe you went and got your Coca-Cola or whatever you did, and you're in the car, and whoever's driving or whoever's in the car and starts getting his wild ideas. Hey, let's go up to Green Light Cemetery, or let's go out to Albino Road, or let's go up to Gravity Hill, or let's get, and this is when these things happen. We've heard the stories 100 times, where it sounded like a good idea at the time, and you're playing rock and roll music on the way there, and you're probably in a muscle car and it's good stuff. And then, it seems like the drive there is always so much different than the drive back when something like this happens. With us, it was, I remember being in a car and we did the whole, what do you call it, that, you put baby powder on the back of the car, and would there be, handprints, would the car be pushed? We did the Green Light Cemetery. We did, that one is where it almost looks like there was an old railroad track. Do what?
I was saying hi to Vixen Dove.
Oh, hey, Vixen. Where there was an old railroad track. The railroad doesn't run there anymore, but you can still see the remnants of the tracks and stuff. And if you look down at a certain time at night, it looks like somebody is, what they call them, Steve? They were checking the tracks. They'd have the lantern. They'd be checking.
Signalman or whatever.
Signalman. That's exactly what I was looking for. And it's kind of like that, but it's a green light. And you can never quite get close to it, and then if you stand still, it'll get closer to you. But if you move towards it, it'll move further away. It's kind of crazy. But that's here in New Jersey, too. So we've got a lot of crazy stuff like that. But let me see if I can share this. And Mulder can get to go outside if I get this right. Yep, there she blows. Here we go, guys. Mr. Steve Stockton and little ghost story about a cemetery.
Adventures in a haunted graveyard. True story.
Here we go.
Beaver Ridge Cemetery is located at the corner of Copper Ridge Road and Emory Road in Knoxville, Tennessee. The cemetery is in West Knox County, near the Carnes community. Although the cemetery is public property and anyone can visit, I ask that any of my listeners please exercise caution and respect. Please be aware that many of the families in the surrounding area have loved ones and other kinfolk buried here, and may not take kindly to interloping strangers. Be it also known that the Knox County Sheriff's Department step up their patrols of the area, particularly after dark, and especially on Halloween and the nights leading up to the spooky holiday. Now, I want to make certain that anyone listening understands just exactly which Copper Ridge I'm talking about, as there are two so-named areas which have seen more than their share of weird activity. This is Beaver Ridge Cemetery, or more appropriately named Old Beaver Ridge Cemetery on Copper Ridge Road. There is, or was, a Copper Ridge church in another part of town where glowing crosses could be seen in the windows overlooking the parking area. Due to all the publicity and rubberneckers, that church has since changed its name and no longer welcomes visitors who come just to see the glowing crosses. It also doesn't help in reducing confusion that Old Beaver Ridge Cemetery used to have an old abandoned and supposedly very haunted building right next to it that had been at one time a church, among other things, such as an elementary school and a Masonic lodge. And the church's address was Copper Ridge Road. If you're still unclear, drop me an email for more details. As always, contact information can be found in the description. The cemetery I'm referring to is at the corner of Copper Ridge Road and Emory Road in Knox County, Tennessee, just outside the Carnes community. The real name of the cemetery is Old Beaver Ridge Cemetery, and apparently has been since 1815, according to the nice bricked sign that's been added in recent years. But as a kid, we always called it Copper Ridge Cemetery because it's on Copper Ridge Road. Carnes folks will know what I'm talking about if I say go to the red light, turn like you're going to the old high school but bear to the left, and then take a right at the old Oris Lynch place. The cemetery will be just up the road on the left. Ever since I was just a little tadpole attending kindergarten at the Carnes Methodist Church, I heard about the cemetery and accompanying school church building being haunted. I went to grade school in the Solway community at Fairview Elementary, a couple miles away from Carnes, so I didn't hear that much about Copper Ridge Cemetery, or Beaver Ridge Cemetery if you prefer, from the 1st through the 7th grade. But let me tell you, from the day I started 8th grade at Carnes Middle, and all 4 years after at Carnes High, I heard the oft-repeated tales over and over again. In high school, my friend Kenny reportedly saw someone in Victorian garb walking around the cemetery after dark. On another occasion, he saw some dark figure stabbing a knife into a grave repeatedly. I had no reason not to believe Kenny, as he lived within easy walking distance of the cemetery, and was also the toughest kid I knew. Being small of stature and being blessed or cursed with strong opinions and no brain-to-mouth filter, Kenny had grown up tough, often using his fists to prove a point. Thankfully, I never had to fight him. It would have been akin to fighting a wildcat wielding a buzzsaw. I saw Kenny take on groups of 3 or more guys all bigger than him and come out victorious. So if a true playground badass like Kenny told you something that scared even him, then that was all the endorsement I required to give the tale adequate weight. Plus, it wasn't just Kenny I heard the stories from. It was a whole slew of kids. Even their parents, and in some cases grandparents, got into the act. In the Carnes community, Copper Ridge Cemetery was a legendary place. My first visit was one day after classes were over in high school. I was going home with my friend Will after school to look at his new hunting rifle, and I happened to mention the cemetery as we drove past. He turned onto Copper Ridge Road, then parked in a small gravel turnout on the side of the street opposite the cemetery, where there just happens to be another cemetery. And although I've heard differently, I think it's part of the same cemetery, just on the other side of Copper Ridge Road. It was a stormy, windy day, so it was the perfect daylight introduction to the cemetery. Will and I got out and walked around between the stones. I recognized many Carnes family names and luminaries. In front of the cemetery, right on the edge of Emory Road, there was an old building. It was one of those old buildings that just look haunted. Growing up, well, during high school and middle school anyway, I'd heard that the building was haunted. Of all the different stories, I heard the following. It was a school, it was a church, it was the home of a secret society. Well, with a little investigation, I found out that all 3 are actually true. It started out as a church, was later used as a school, and even in the 1930s when my mom was attending Fairview, she knew kids who'd attended what I suppose was called Copper Ridge School. And last but not least, when my father first became a Mason and started attending lodge meetings, his group met in the old building until the Beaver Ridge Lodge on nearby Oak Ridge Highway was completed. Again, the fact that it had been all 3 things that I'd heard it had been, this lent credence to the building being haunted. Plus, as I stated earlier, this place just looked haunted. Peering in the dusty windows, at the time the building had been closed for years and wasn't used for anything, but was still intact with doors and windows in an overall generally good shape. I half expected to see shadows flitting around. Standing back in the cemetery, the upstairs windows facing the graveyard were even creepier, like you were being watched by some unseen entity inside the building. I'd even heard one tale of an enterprising lad who had snuck a tape recorder into the building one night, pressed the record button, and then snuck away. When he returned the next morning and retrieved the recorder, he was so horrified at what he had captured on the tape, howls, shrieks, screams, whispers, footsteps, chants, and other assorted and sundry voices and sounds, that he immediately erased the tape and vowed to never set foot in either the old church or the cemetery again. As stated, these kind of tales are plentiful. It seems that anyone and everyone in the Carnes community had at least one story of their own personal experience they could tell, and knew of a couple dozen more first-hand accounts that they had heard from family and friends. It seems that older brothers and sisters, or sometimes cousins, had the best stories to relate when it came to the strange goings-on in Beaver Ridge Cemetery. So, even though my first introduction to the area was mild, it would get better. That day there was a storm brewing in out of the west over Black Oak Ridge, and my friend suggested we might not want to be among the trees and headstones during a real boom-banger of an electrical storm. I agreed, and we retreated to his house in the Camelot subdivision just a bit farther up Emery Road, with the understood, unspoken promise that we would return soon to check it out at night. I particularly wanted to see if the stories about how some of the stones glowed in the dark were true. Sure enough, a few weeks later, we had a long weekend off from school coming up. What better way to alleviate the rigors and boredom of high school academia than with hanging out in a haunted graveyard? I was all about it and could hardly wait until Friday arrived. Friday night found us at my friend Will's house packing for a ghost hunting expedition. About 30 years before such things as are now commonly broadcast as reality TV, we gathered up our gear, which was really just a couple of flashlights, a Sony micro cassette recorder, pocket knives, and for added protection, an ancient bolt-action single-shot .22 rifle, which we stashed in the trunk by itself. Truth be told, the old rifle was a relic and was probably more dangerous to the person trying to fire it than the person being fired upon. Thankfully, the rifle remained in the trunk throughout the night as we parked our vehicle at the high school and walked the half-mile or so back to Beaver Ridge Cemetery, lest someone spot our car parked right beside the cemetery, as most nocturnal explorers often did and usually got busted. When we arrived at the cemetery, the first thing we did was walk the perimeter and make sure we were the only people, living anyway, in attendance on that particular night. Pleased and satisfied that we were all alone, we set about fanning out among the stones and walking a grid to see if we could stir up any paranormal activity. Dressed head to toe in black, if anyone had spotted us in the cemetery that night, and they may well have, they would have thought that we were some sort of dark wraiths up to no good, which was probably not far from the truth. I did notice that when the moon was just right, some of the stones did seem to give off a pearlescent glow. However, I think this was actually flakes of perhaps mica or quartz in the giant granite headstones, which caught enough of the ambient light to cast a glow. We made a couple passes near the back side of the cemetery, where it was rumored that an easily riled caretaker armed with a shotgun loaded with rock salt lived, praying for the nights when he managed to catch interlopers in his cemetery. Sure enough, there was an old rundown mobile home back there, a sole window flickering with what was most likely a black and white television. We carefully backtracked and swung a huge loop around the cemetery in the other direction, away from the trailer, figuring there was no use in pushing our luck. Shortly after midnight, we saw headlights turn onto Copper Ridge Road, and a Ford station wagon, one of the huge road boats from the early 1970s with simulated wood grain paneling down the sides, pulled into the little gravel area and doused its lights and engine quickly. We laid flat on the ground and belly crawled over behind some large stones for cover as we got a better look. In a few minutes, we saw a flashlight playing over the area and peeked out from our hiding spot to observe a strange beast. It appeared to have about 8 or 10 arms, the same amount of legs, and 4 or 5 hairy heads. What we were seeing was not a monster at all, but actually a group of girls, cheerleaders no less, from our high school, pressed together so closely that they resembled the horrific beast I described. They slid along the far edge of the graveyard. I turned to my friend, and even in the dark could see he was grinning ear to ear. I flashed him a thumbs up, knowing that fortune had smiled on us this evening. We were about to scare the pants off some of our classmates. Since we were dressed in black, it was no problem to move around stealthily. The only thing we had to remember was to keep low and not get caught with any light behind us that might give us away in silhouette. Will, thinner and more limber than I, silently pulled himself up into the low-hanging branches of a cedar tree, while I picked an excellent dark spot nearby in the shadow of a giant memorial headstone. We waited silently, holding our collective breath. Shortly, the group came near to where we had hidden ourselves. I heard their breathless voices get closer and closer till I could finally make out what they were saying. The main girl, the ringleader I'll call her, and I won't name any names.
I'm on it, guys. I'm trying to see why it's rolling like this. And it won't stop. Oh, 1 second. What are we at? We're at 12:28. Bear with me. I'm going to try something. Somebody tell a joke in the chat. All right, I heard one the other day. But if there's kids in the room, cover their ears. Trying to remember this joke. It is funny. Just trying to remember it. What did the one saggy boob say to the other saggy boob? I know there's a delay, so I'm going to wait. We're at 12 minutes. What did one saggy boob say to the other saggy boob? You're stepping in me? No. Help me up or ouch? No. All buses have cameras? No. Why would one saggy boob say that to another saggy boob? Yeah, Sarah. I'm sorry that happened, Sarah, by the way. That's terrible. Yeah, you're going to have to do something about that. If we don't get some support right away, people are going to think we're nuts. Just hanging out here together. All right, let's try it. But I think I got it to roll. I had to download another copy. So let's see how this one works.
The group came near to where we had hidden ourselves.
Here we go.
I heard their breathless
go back to
the low-hanging branches of a cedar tree, while I picked an excellent dark spot nearby in the shadow of a giant memorial headstone. We waited silently, holding our collective breath. Shortly, the group came near to where we had hidden ourselves. I heard their breathless voices get closer and closer till I could finally make out what they were saying. The main girl, the ringleader I'll call her, and I won't name any names because I'm sure to this day any in the group would love to get a hold of me. She was saying how silly it was to be scared here. After all, it was just an old cemetery. What is there to be afraid of anyway? And just then, Will dropped from his perch in the tree, not more than half a dozen feet in front of the group. You've never heard such a scream in your life. Just as they found their feet and turned to run, I sprang from my hiding place with a loud, low moan. Suddenly, the many-limbed monster split into 5 very scared girls who were now running wildly, willy-nilly, hell-bent on escaping the cemetery alive. As Will and I watched them run away, we turned along the tree line to hide in the edge of the woods until they were gone. As we made our way through, Will elbowed me to the ribs and pointed. Behind the girls and off to the right a bit, another dark figure gave chase, eliciting even more screams. "Who the heck is that?" I whispered as we both dropped out of sight in the tall grass. "Did you tell anyone else we were going to be here tonight?" Will swore that he hadn't, and I knew that he hadn't. We saw the station wagon burst to life, reverse out of the spot, and then vanish heading west into the darkness on Emery Road in a cloud of dust and thrown gravel. We held our position in the high weeds for a few minutes, waiting for the other scary person to reveal themselves. But oddly enough, we never caught sight of anyone. even when we eventually came out of hiding and stealthily looked over the entire cemetery and surrounding area. We finally headed back to our parking spot at the high school and then on to Will's house a little after 2 in the morning. Beat, dirty, sweaty, tired, and mystified. We made our bunks in Will's basement and planned to go back the next day, Saturday, in broad daylight, and see what we could see. All night I dreamed of being in the cemetery and of being chased by a dark boogeyman with no face. I kind of felt this was probably well-deserved karma for having given the cheerleaders a fright they would never forget. The next morning, I woke up groggy from all the commotion the night before, stiff from sleeping on the floor of Will's dad's basement study in my sleeping bag. Will and I dragged ourselves upstairs, where his mom had a full breakfast of eggs, bacon, sausage, hash browns, toast, orange juice, and black coffee, yes, waiting for us. After the feast, we had energy to spare and decided we would just jog the mile or so to the cemetery from this location. An excellent plan. Now in the light of day, Beaver Ridge Cemetery is not as scary as in the literal dead of night, but it does have a certain feel about it, that while many cemeteries also have it, not all do, I would almost describe it as a feeling of extreme sadness, an overwhelming sense of melancholy, if you'll indulge me. It's almost as if the graves, each and every one of them, is speaking out to you, the living, not in an audible language, but a language, a patois, if you will, a post-human that is more felt than heard, but speaks volumes nonetheless. It gives one a new perspective on life and death and mortality. Do these people want to die? Were they ready to shuffle off this mortal coil? I would wager that not 1 in 100 of the people in any given cemetery are truly ready to make that lonely journey to see what lies beyond the thin veil, as thin as a single breath, between this life and whatever is in the great beyond. There is unfinished business, words not spoken, apologies unmade, songs unsung, tales untold. This is the language of the dead. Part of the reason that I became a writer and chronicler of folklore and stories and tall tales and myths and legends and things that go bump in the night is due to an epiphany I had at the funeral of my maternal grandmother. Yes, the very same one I had feared as a child because I thought she looked like a witch, and because she told me of the wild talents that I surely must possess, because I was born with a veil over my face, and anyway, as I stood there looking down at her in her coffin, all 89 pounds of her withered hull, I observed the silence of her lips, the stillness of her hands. I thought about all the stories she had told me in my youth, many of which scared the dickens out of me, no doubt scarring me for life. And I realized that those tales died with her. As her words faded and echoed into the mists of time, no longer would I hear a cautionary tale about going mad if a dog bit me during the dog days of summer, or most likely having to have my foot, nay, my entire leg, amputated, and that was if I was lucky, should I be so foolish and unfortunate as to step into the morning dew on the grass and unknowingly have a cut on my foot. Dew poisoning was swift and sure and merciless, and there was no cure. Well, maybe some of those stories needed to die, but I chose at that moment in time not to let them. Not just the stories of my grandmother, but of my aunts and uncles and parents and friends of the family, and old toothless men that sat on rotting porches covered with rusty screen and spun their tales of terror and of lessons learned. I would be the scribe to record these tales, so that they might not last only longer than those who told them, but longer than those who heard them as well. I'd found my purpose in life, but I digress. So here we were in this cemetery in broad daylight, before noon even, and it still had a spooky, scary, creepy feel. You always hear people describe it as, I felt as if I were being watched. Well, that was exactly what it felt like. Perhaps it was the dark canopy of old-growth cedar trees that lined the back of the graveyard. Or maybe the ever-present hollow-eyed stare of the darkened windows of the old abandoned school, church, Masonic hall. Or maybe the high grass that ringed 3 sides of the property. Or the fact that from where the cemetery stood, you couldn't see any houses or people or any living thing, save for the odd crow or two that occasionally took wing over the stones, cawing, taunting. Even the wind seemed different up on top of the small knob. It would come up out of nowhere and whip your hair and clothing around you and moan through the trees when you were in certain parts of the cemetery. We ventured over and peeked inside the old building. It wasn't that we were scared to enter the building because of ghosts or witches or Satanists or any of the other myriad of things we'd heard might be lurking inside, but rather the fact that the old wooden floorboards, even on the ground floor, were rotting away. I shudder to think what the stairs and upper floors might have looked like based on these perilous conditions. Contented that there were not any ghosts or witches or Satanists hiding inside, we traced a lazy route around the entire perimeter of the cemetery. We could see where we had hidden the night before, the tall grass still mashed down and bearing witness to our having lain there as we'd watched the other figure, as dark as night and oh so nimble, frolic amongst the tombstones. We even went and checked the spot where Will had clambered up into the tree and where I had crouched behind the squat rectangular obelisk bearing the Garrison family name. We checked all the angles and figured that whatever we had seen would have surely been able to see us, especially before we were made known to its presence. I felt goosebumps rise on my arms, even in the warm morning sun, as I imagined some dark figure curiously watching us from a distance, and then deciding us to join in on the fun when we had popped out to frighten the hapless group of cheerleaders. What did we see? We truly did not then or now, some 30-odd years in the future, have any idea who or what decided to join us on that night. Although we searched in the area where the dark figure had emerged from, we couldn't find a trace of anything. There were no footprints, no cigarette butts or gum wrappers, or any sign where it had lain in the tall grass and waited as we had. Whatever it was, it must have been from nearby, although the sheer logistical impossibility of this notion at that time cannot be stressed strongly enough. Even today, with the advent of Google Maps, you can see that there's not much close by, and there was even less those 30-plus years ago. Although, admittedly, we had been a tiny bit scared, we were more curious than frightened. We decided, for reasons of scientific exploration and posterity, that we would return tonight. We would arrive a good half hour or so before dark, in order to walk a grid of the cemetery and surrounds again to fully ensure we were the only ones present. Satisfied with our plan, we jogged back to Will's house to ponder and wait and plot. After what seemed like forever, I'm sure it was all of 8 or 9 hours, we decided it was time to return to the cemetery. Once again, we drove down to Carnes High School, which is now an elementary school, and parked Will's car. And also, once again, we were dressed in black from head to toe. Black anti-glare football player makeup smeared beneath our eyes. I'm sure we were quite the sight. This time, though, since it was still daylight, we decided to duck behind the high school, find a place to ford Beaver Creek, and be in the creek bottom across from the cemetery in a fraction of the time it would have taken up by sneaking along the highway and risking being spotted and, heaven forbid, having to explain to a curious adult or a skeptical law enforcement officer just exactly what we were doing sneaking around in these otherwise ridiculous get-ups. We treated it like we were on a combat mission, and were able to sneak past and behind the high school without being spotted. I'm sure that Frank West or one of the other janitorial staff was in the building, but we were fast and wily and camouflaged. Inasmuch as getting past and behind the high school was no problem, fording Beaver Creek presented a whole other set of circumstances. In the low bottoms, which began just behind the school, the ground was at best soft and muddy, and at worst dotted with deep puddles and pockets of quicksand-like mud that like to do funny things, like suck the shoes off of your very feet. We spent the best minutes walking up and down the banks of the creek trying to find a place where we could just walk across. Will and I both knew of such places, but unfortunately, it would have required us walking several miles out of our way. And it was also in areas where there might be houses and farms and dogs and other assorted and sundry things that would make it easier for us to get caught. So we gathered our courage, stripped off our socks, shoes, and pants, and waded across Beaver Creek in our underwear. Now, I've been in some cold water before, but I've never felt water as cold as it was in Beaver Creek that afternoon as the sun began to dip low behind the trees. We're talking take your breath away cold, and I'm sure I speak for Will also when I say that I'm glad the water only came up to mid-thigh rather than our waists. We hurriedly chicken walked through the creek and likewise hurriedly put our pants and socks and shoes back on as we stood shivering above the bank of the creek. Time was of the essence. Even though it would have been hard to explain all the black clothing and grease paint, Being practically bare-assed out in the woods would have brought a whole new level of eyebrow-raising from any interested parties. We hid in the tall grass on the right-of-way by Emery Road. For a usually unbusy stretch of rural road, it seemed particularly busy that day. Cars, trucks, bicycles, people pulling boats, or a sledge on a tractor. We had a parade of traffic in both directions there for a bit. Fortunately, the coast finally cleared and we darted out of the ditch, across Emery Road, and into another ditch just below the school, cemetery, Masonic Lodge. The only thing left was to escape the prying eyes of the possible caretaker who lived in the rundown mobile home off to the left. As we scurried up the bank and finally entered the cemetery proper, I heard a dog woof curiously a couple times, but then went silent. We had made it. As planned, we regrouped and then set about skulking along the edges of the perimeter to see if we had any unexpected company already in hiding. I doubted as much, and I didn't think anyone else would be as dedicated, or as foolish, as a matter of opinion, to be already out in the cemetery when it was easily a half hour before twilight. It was dark under the trees, though, and the high grass around the sides provided adequate cover as twilight approached. After thoroughly checking the grounds, we'd saved the building for last. We were reasonably sure that we were quite alone in our quest to conquer the ghosts of Beaver Ridge Cemetery. Seriously, though, we were committed, or crazy, or both. We walked the perimeter one last time before taking our places in the high grass in the back of the cemetery. We felt this was better than hiding in the tree and behind the headstone, respectively, as we had done the previous night. We settled in for the night. Unless something really, really strange and scary went down, we were here for the duration, meaning all night long, if that was what it took. The first couple of hours, as expected, were mind-numbingly boring. It wasn't until midnight or thereabouts that things began to liven up, pardon the expression. Out of the corner of his eye, Will thought that he'd seen a light in the old abandoned building. While sneakily making our way over to check it out, I managed to scare some sort of bird that was nesting in the low branch of a cedar tree. It gave a deafening squawk and flew off into the night. It took every ounce of my fiber to hold my ground and not shriek as well when I disturbed the bird. But as I saw it fly away, I realized what it was. Relieved, at least regarding the tree-dwelling, shrieking night bird, we inched closer to the old building. I went one direction toward the front, and Will went the other. We thought if someone were observing us and tried to make a run for it, at least one of us would stand a good chance of spotting the perpetrator. No dice, though. We met in front of the building with no incident to report. Perhaps the shrieking bird had alerted anyone inside their presence, and they were laying low in the building. As we carefully slipped back around the building, this time it was my turn to catch something from the corner of my eye. Just as we cleared the area between the building and the start of the cemetery proper, I thought I saw someone, possibly a small child from the size and shape of the figure, ducked behind one of the giant marble headstones. I grabbed Will's elbow and we dropped to the ground, prone. I quietly informed him of what I had seen and pointed out the general area. I told him to watch near the back and side of the cemetery, and I would make for the stone where I thought the kid was hiding. Will nodded silently in agreement, and we stood, half crouching, and ran toward the stone. As we approached the headstone in question, I rose to my full height and began walking slowly. I motioned to Will to take the right side, and I took the left. I slipped a small but powerful flashlight from the pocket of my black hoodie. I stepped around the stone and flicked the pencil-thin beam on simultaneously, and there was no sign of anything. I shrugged my shoulders at Will and flicked the light beam off. I know that I'd seen something. I saw its blackened silhouette as it ducked behind the stone. I suppose that it could have ducked behind other stones besides that one, managing to keep out of our line of sight. It was possible, but highly improbable. We stealthily made our way back to the rear edge of the tall grass and once again concealed ourselves therein. We sat and we waited. Then, about 1 o'clock in the morning, we saw a similar situation as the night before begin to take place. This time, instead of a station wagon with simulated wood grain paneling, a dusty orange Chevy van pulled into the gravel turnout on the other side of Copper Ridge Road. Once again, a set of girls came sneaking across the road, one of them with a flashlight in hand. We didn't understand exactly what we were observing. A vehicle load of cheerleaders, 2 nights in a row. The only thing we could figure was that this was some sort of initiation that the varsity girls squad was making the junior girls endure. Either way, it was win-win for us. We might have the opportunity to scare some of our classmates, or at least see them being scared by something else. Plus, we might get another chance to see whatever the strange shape was that helped us chase the crew from the previous night. We slowly crept into our positions from the night before. Will silently lifted himself up into the massive cedar, and I crouched behind the rectangular stone that marked the Garrison family plot. I was in place and ready to go when I heard Will slip down from his perch in the tree. He sidled up to me and said something along the lines of, "These are cheerleaders from our high school. Normally, they wouldn't give us the time of day. Why are we trying to frighten them off, exactly?" I had to admit he had me there. They probably still wouldn't give us the time of day, but it was worth a shot at least. We turned on our pin lights and started toward the group who were gathered on the edge of the cemetery and so pressed together that they looked like one giant misshapen girl again. Tonight was going to be interesting after all. We got the girls' attention and managed to not scare them away. It seems that there is safety in numbers after all. Other than the mysterious glow that does indeed come from some of the tombstones when weather and other conditions are just right, we didn't really experience anything out of the ordinary that night. The only thing truly supernatural that happened was Will and I having 2 cheerleaders on each arm, pressed close and holding on for dear life. Ah, youth. Later in life, I've paid the occasional solo visit to Beaver Ridge Cemetery, both in the daytime and in the dead of night. Sadly, the old church/school/Masonic hall has been demolished, although pictures of it still exist on the internet. I had always hoped against hope that someone would buy the property from the county and restore it for its significant historical value. But alas, it wasn't to be. In my 20s, I had one of the most intense episodes of deja vu that I'd ever encountered. I'd driven past the cemetery and was passing a farm. The moon was full and bright, the night sky cloudless, when I was suddenly flooded with a memory from childhood that flashed over and over and over in my mind. I turned around several times and redrove the route again and again. I wasn't able to shake the weird feeling, nor could I explain it. As if the whole area on Copper Ridge Road has an aura of mystery to it. Another friend from high school once told me of a nudist camp hidden in the woods off Copper Ridge Road. However, a little further investigation proved that the camp was actually a Christian teen summer camp, and that my friend was very liberal with what he considered the truth. Although he did finally admit that, okay, it's not a nudist camp per se, but he did witness a handful of people playing volleyball in the buff. Okay, Paul, sure you did. As I stated in the beginning, anyone is free to visit Beaver Ridge Cemetery and to drive up and down Copper Ridge Road, but please be respectful. If you do see or experience anything paranormal in this location, I'd love to hear from you. As always, contact information is in the description.
That's so cool. That's Lee, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool.
Oh, that's an oldie but a goodie.
It's so good. I love it. I love it.
I've written that book for the channel. So you named the channel. You came up with 13 Past Midnight or Help Me Pick It.
Yep, sure did.
That's a true story there. I hadn't heard that in a
Love
long
it.
time.
I know, it's good though.
That's in my book, My Strange World. It's my second book that I wrote.
That was a good one. That was what you had told me that one, the first part of it, when the first phone call we ever had. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep.
A little bit long there, but
no, I like it. I like it. Everybody enjoyed it. You know, they were feeling nostalgia too, you know, maybe in different ways. Because that's what you started out doing, the stories like that. And you started doing stories out of your books and stuff. So, yeah, but what do you think that is that's in the woods, Steve? That's, following along and playing along.
No idea, but something helped us chase the first crew, and then we saw something ourselves. I have no idea. So I've walked day and night and can't find anything, and nobody lives around there or didn't back then. So I don't know.
It's
something
just
weird in there, though. It's just
yeah,
creepy.
it is. It's really weird, and I find it weird that it's normally, for the most part, because I know there's exceptions to the rules. There's the white mist and the white apparitions and things like that. But the ones I'm talking about are these darker shadows. And just because it's dark doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. And I know that's a hard thing to kind of wrap your head around, but I don't believe that
Well,
it
as
is. I
Rod
think it's more
Serling
feeling too.
once said, there's nothing there in the dark that isn't there in the light. But I disagree with you, Rod. There's stuff that only.
Oh, there's bad stuff. Yeah, for sure. But to me, some of them seem like shadow people, which I separate from ghosts that appear as shadows. I think there's different things. You see what I'm saying? That's what I mean. Not necessarily everything is bad. Now, if it's really, really, something that, you feel it before you see it, and it's a negative feeling and it's an oppressive, heavy, then I would say, yeah, but I think you need all of those filters to judge. Sometimes you can't even. Now, sometimes, I don't know if you still do or not. I don't know if having the internet has affected the abilities. And I don't even know if you had these, Steve. This is a good question. When you were a kid, you saw a picture, because Steve's a lot like me when it comes to certain filters of, I don't know whether you necessarily call them abilities or just an extra, you're noticing it more or whatever. I think everybody's got something,
Yeah.
But when you're looking at a picture, when I was a kid, I could look at a picture and right away I could tell if something was fake or not. And it wasn't so much of how it looked, it was how it felt.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, stuff has a feeling. That's I guess
does.
an empathic thing or whatever, but
It's an energy.
it's like some of these missing person cases I cover. When I see that person's picture, I know they're deceased. I know they passed on.
Yep, I get
Even
that too.
if they're never found, I know that they're not on this plane anymore. I don't know how I know, but
It's just an instant. If
Yeah.
you think about it, I find that if you think about it, like if you go in, you'd really have to
it's something
adjust
about the
everything.
eyes. You look
But
at
if
the
you
eyes.
just do it, it's like a natural thing. But here's the thing. What I'm talking about too is like looking through, like, just imagine, go back in time when you're on the somewhere, in any town, USA, whatever, you're on the carpet, laying on the floor, looking at a book you just got out of the library and just ghost pictures in it, or it's freaks, or it's Barnum and Bailey's or whoever it was, Believe It or Not, and all that other stuff. When you saw a picture, instantly there was an energy of, there's a lot of deception on this. You can feel deception. You can feel it comes from a different place of greed and lies and things like that. It has a different feeling. But when you look at something like, say, for instance, the brown lady of Random Hall, okay? You look at that, right away, it was like, it's like a feeling of, that's real. And you can feel a different kind of energy off of it. And it's not that there hasn't been controversy around it and people arguing over it, putting different energy in it. It's almost like a moment in time captured. And that energy is just a snippet of that energy is captured. And it's almost likened to where some native tribes would say that you'd steal a part of their soul when you took a picture. And, there's so much misinterpretation and lost in translation. I'm wondering if they're not meaning something like that it actually takes a piece of that energy and freezes it in time.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like crazy, but think about it, because there's a definite feeling off of a picture, and a picture doesn't really even have any electronics on it, Steve. So what I'm also wondering is do you feel like maybe that energy from being a kid, of course we've honed things and we've let things go and we've unlearned things too, but there's some things that have stuck with us. Do you get that when you're looking at so much internet? Has it kind of desensitized things, or do you think it's
think there is some
made it stronger?
desensitization there, but then there is you're just bombarded with stuff. But there's still certain things have a certain look and a certain feel, and it's more about the feeling
Yeah.
than the look.
I think it almost comes faster, and I'm wondering, I almost prefer the old way over over this. And it's not, and it's not that the content, it's not so much the content, even though that's a factor, but, and it's not the amount so much. It's the way it comes in and the filters it goes through. It's different. Yeah. It's different than opening a book and it's just you in that book, laying on that, your mama's fine, Persian rug, you know what I mean? And you're there and it's just, you're in it and you're so organically open to the subject and you're tuned in and your intent is to learn. And it's almost like you just, and I think it happens with, like you said, the missing, and things like that. But when you start putting it on internet and you're looking for over a phone or a notebook or whatever it might be, a PC, you're also getting that energy of the electronics with it, which is getting real dangerous. We've talked about that before. The first thing I saw when I saw somebody was doing live exorcisms, I went, what the hell? Who's in charge of this shit? Boy, did they drop the ball. Now here's the thing. It's probably intentional, because Steve and I have sat here many a night and told you that when they were cutting records, there would be a group. Now, not on every record. You can't paint broad brush, but there was definitely enough of them where they would come in right when the stuff was getting ready to be pressed, and they would put all kinds of spells and all this other stuff in the vinyl or the stacks of wax or whatever you want to call it, But this happened. Weird stuff also happened, like when Kiss got together and did a comic book, they all dropped some of their blood in the ink. Remember that big old fiasco thing? Silly things like that. But at the same time, along with the silly and the, oh my gosh, this is so scary, isn't it great it's fake, there was a lot of real in there too. And Steve and I can tell you, Aleister Crowley was all up in that, a lot deeper than you think. And there was a lot of real stuff in that. And I'm betting you that same feeling would get you like it got me when I was probably, I know as young teenagers. So I was, preteen, 11, 12, 13, something like that, when that stuff started to hit. And I would walk in a room just like I do now, not even really realizing what was going on. And you could feel it. And I'm like, man, there's real stuff in there. There's something to this, and there'd be something, devil's rain or whatever. And they were doing some of that on purpose, guys. And doesn't that scare you? You think about it, right? So do you think that some of these graveyards, some of these cemeteries are getting stirred up from the living going there and messing around? Or do you, because to me, I can tell you right now, I don't think that they're any more haunted than anything else, but I think there's an energy drawn there from other places, and it's almost like a gathering place. And I do believe that when you go to speak to whoever you're speaking to, they connect into it. But I also think that they would do that in your kitchen. That's where my thinking is, So I don't think they're hanging around there. I think the things that would hang around there would be more of a lower vibrational, or a visiting kind of in and out kind of deal, that I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. That kind of energy aggregates, and you get that many people putting that kind of energy together, even far apart or together all there at one time. I think it's a collective.
Yeah, I do too. And I think there's a protection there too. I mean, it's a very big thing about consecrated ground and holy ground and, ground that's been prayed over. People can tell a difference if you're, you know, if you're in a room and you're praying in there, there's a barrier set up. I've got a million stories that'll tell you, you know, about that. I remember one of the lady that was holding her child in a hospital, and there was a lot going on, but she wound up thinking that there was something there that was actually bothering her and getting to her, and she took her out of the room. She was waiting in the chapel while they got another room. She said, we're not going back in there. And she's in the chapel sitting there. And I don't know, some of these hospitals have, you know, little bitty rooms, little chapels. Some are great big, but she's in a small one, and you could had a door with a glass window in it. And she's in this room with her daughter, and she's sitting, you know, kind of rocking. Everything's, you know, better because, you know, they're getting what they need and everything is over and they're calming down. She looks out the window, and this thing is outside the door, but it can't get in because its prayer is being said in there. Yep. There's a barrier. So, you know, think what you will, you know, like you say, Steve, and I love it. You know, your mileage may vary, but there's something to be said. There's a lot of stories. All right. As we get out, this, my friends, is Old Tenement Church outside of the Battle of Monmouth at kind of the tail end of the Revolution. Yes, Washington was here. It was a hideous battle, and as they all are. But the main thing we're focusing on tonight is right outside of that church, which was used as a hospital during and after the battle. Molly Pitcher's Well is not far from here. This was the battle that there were many women on the field bringing water to throw on the cannons, water to the men. It's hot, you know, helping wounded, getting wounded off the field. The story goes that Molly Pitcher was there bringing buckets of water from this well to her husband and their crew, and they were stationed in charge of the artillery. And one hot afternoon, as she's bringing the bucket up, she witnesses him get shot and killed, died in front of her at her feet. And it is said that she yelled out, you know, that's it. You rest, my love. I will then, you know, take your place and get your revenge, you know. And she takes his place at the cannon. And, you know, the odd thing is the Molly Pitcher story is often overlapped and mixed in with other stories that are very similar, because this happened more than once. You know, it might vary a little where the husband got wounded and they were short, and the wife or the girlfriend or the, you know, whoever was there jumped in. Many times this happened, and the reason there was so much need for this water to cool these cannons down. So that would be a young drummer boy's job if he wasn't drumming. If it would be you know, the women that weren't shooting and doing these things, they often jumped in. So if you hear these stories, and as our series goes on in the Revolution, I'll bring up many of these little anecdotes of women jumping in, but there was a lot more than you know. And that one happened here. This was Molly Pitcher's place, and her well is right here, and that is the Old Tenement Church. And it's still used today. There are still services there all week, and it is the oldest church in this area. You know, I think in the 13 colonies, I think this is the oldest one, but don't quote me on that, because there's a lot of old churches up in New England that I think might catch it, and I don't know for sure. So that's something, though. Look at all this architecture and everything else. I thought you'd like to see it, and I hope to get there. I hope to get there and, you know, take you to where the battle was and everything else. So it would kind of be cool for me, since my earliest ghost story is a Revolutionary War soldier with, oddly enough, glowing eyes. They didn't say red, but mine had red. So And sometimes, not all the time. There was a couple times he didn't have red, but he was calmer and his eyes didn't glow at all. So go figure. I don't know the rule book. Let's see. This is just a picture of the Old Tenant Church at night. It's just really beautiful to imagine that that's been there, since the 1700s and it's still functioning today. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Not far from it. So the Old Tenant Presbyterian Church, located in Manalapan, which is right around the corner from me, New Jersey, was the first Presbyterian congregation in the United States. It was established in 1692. A Scotch Presbyterian built Old Tenant Church in 1751. It was named after two of its most beloved ministers in the 18th century, who were brothers, John and William Tennant. This church is still used for worship. During the Battle of Monmouth, during the American Revolutionary War in June of 1778, it was getting toward the end, Old Tenant was used as a temporary hospital. This church building still has the marks of cannonballs that struck it during this battle. As late as 1916, 4 cannonballs were dug up near the church. There's another shot of it. It's nice that we're still keeping places. A soldier by the name of Tunis Coward was sitting in the graveyard that is by Old Tenant Church, that one you just saw there, watching the Battle of Monmouth. He unfortunately chose the wrong spot to sit, for a cannonball struck him in the leg and then sheared off the top of the red sandstone tombstone behind him. His friends discovered his dead body and carried him into the church and placed him on the back pew. Its pews are still scarred from the saw marks that cut wounded limbs from the soldiers, because they used it as a hospital, like I said, that would have otherwise died. One pew's wood bench, the second from the last, is stained by the blood of one of these brave wounded soldiers. A story about one soldier that was wounded by a cannon fire during the Battle of Monmouth and died. This story resulted in a well-known ghost legend that is still told today. So that's it. That's Old Tenant Church, and it's got many stories. And let's see if I can fix this. Ever since the soldier's ghost has been seen by witnesses wandering through this graveyard, there are 120 Revolutionary War veterans buried here. So, right around the corner from me. It's no wonder I was seeing soldiers wandering around when I was a kid, Steve. Yep. And you too. Anywhere you stepped, there was probably a battle, right, Steve?
Yeah, definitely. Civil War, Revolutionary War, both.
And, going back to, gosh, how far, So there you go, guys. Some haunted cemeteries. I mean, that barely scratched the surface. I didn't even know we got an old picture pulled out of Steve's past you forgot you had.
Yeah, I forgot all about that.
Isn't it wild that we could sit here and there's so much stuff you just forget after a while. I hadn't thought about those pictures off the wheat field in a long time, but I can see going someplace, taking pictures, taking a little video, and sitting in the car going home. That's exactly what happened to me. And I'm going through the pictures, and all of a sudden, wham, 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 wham. You just, what? And you've already gone. You're 25, 30 miles from where you took them. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? But I have to give it a little credit. We saw a lot of video tonight, my ghost in curlers and a bathrobe and her little fluffy slippers. And good old Franco, thanks for that. Good over there. If you don't know Franco, get over there and get on his channel, and Nuke's Top 5 and all of those. They're great, because keep them coming, I say, Steve, because I enjoy seeing them, and I'm glad they're doing it, because I don't want to walk around a cemetery at 3 o'clock in the morning with a GoPro. But you say you're going to do that now, sir?
At some point.
At some time. Maybe not quite 3 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Take a big stick with you, my friend. What you got going on this week?
Got all kinds of stuff going on. Got more in my Dark Tales from Every State series coming up, covering Dark Tales from every state.
You've been just
Colorado, so got a lot more states to go, and then all kinds of stuff coming up on missing persons and mysteries too. So
that's
and
great.
The radio show.
And the radio show, and you're talking to the lady, the mortician, right?
Yeah, that one's already up.
Is that up?
You were the second part of that one. I had an hour with her and then an hour with you, but it's definitely worth a listen. Excuse me.
That's one we were talking about childhood.
Childhood fears, real or
That was a
imagined.
good one.
Yep.
That one took a couple hard lefts, but we come back around and
Yeah, we could probably do another one on that.
Yeah, we barely touched that one too. It's such a lovely genre and a lovely subject. I mean, we could go any direction. I think the next thing we'll probably do is hit some old UFO stuff. I am absolutely flabbergasted digging around in the 70s and digging around in all these, sightings and, all the shows, and how many UFO abduction stories there are. How many, and I'm curious to know how many kind of overlapped in detail and not, where's the extra little detail that's off the side, that maybe not everybody said, a little extra, learn a little more. There's so much information out there. I don't know how we don't have all the answers to this stuff yet. I really don't, but
I've got more questions than I started
I know.
with.
I know it just keeps happening that way. Well, my friend, I'll tell you, I wouldn't rather trip through the graveyard with anybody but you, as long as we're not whistling past it. That old saying,
don't
you're
want
just
to whistle past the graveyard.
You just whistling. Now that an old saying? It's also I think it's also like a little bit of an insult in a way, because because you can look at somebody with the right inflection and say, you're just whistling past the graveyard, sweetheart, and have it mean that you're just you're avoiding all your problems, the inevitable.
Yeah.
And you're just, breezing through it like a dumbass, and you're not paying attention to what you're supposed to pay attention to, that kind of thing. But it also is, the way you said that, it reminded me, it's also like a wives' tale or something like that. There's another more sinister kind of thing to it, isn't there?
There's more to it. I'll have to do some research and unwrap the whole thing. But yeah, there's more to that.
Yeah. I think it's bad luck. Or it's being cocky. It definitely has something to do with being cocky and being too big for your britches, and it's also got some scary stuff attached to it. There's homework for everybody. Figure out by next Monday what that means and why it's bad luck. Okay, I love y'all. Thank you for being here tonight. Get over there and follow Steve's channels if you're not sub to him. Listen to that radio show. I think it's good. We have a ball on there. And I think you get great comments. I think the people that are listening enjoy it too. They're finding out different stuff that not everybody's talking about.
Lewis himself told me that other than his show, mine is the most popular one on the network. So
there you go. There you go. Popular. That's right. I love you. My love to the missus and the little man. Okay. I love you. And Mulder too. Let's not forget Mulder. All right. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Hit the like on the way out. Share it out if you can. And thanks for being here. And I hope you're listening to Liberty. If you're listening with me, Bobby, if you're not listening, you should be. Froze, listen, here we go. We're on 4, and I'm looking forward to your thoughts on some of these characters, Thomas Paine and George Washington and all of them. We're getting to know Ben Franklin, just about as good as some of those French ladies across the pond there. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good one. I love you, Steve. You know I do.
Love you guys.
And here's a little something pretty to take us out. Good night. I love you, baby. My love to Nick. There we go. Good night. Be good humans. Be good humans. There is beauty out there, and you're part of it. Smile. Laugh. Live in spite of the bullshit. We'll keep the lights on for you. Good night.